Hi everyone, Anthony Morganti here. Recently, yesterday actually, DXO released PureRAW 5. In today's video, I'm going to give you a demonstration of PureRAW 5 and we're going to discuss how it's different than PureRAW 4. Before I begin, I do want to mention that in the description below this video, I'll have a link to their website. They have a fully working free trial. I encourage you to try it before you buy it. If you do choose to purchase it and you are a new customer, I have a discount code that will save you 15%. I'll have that listed in the description below this video as well. Now, as you can see, I have DXO PureRAW 5 open. I'm going to begin by showing you how to use it as a standalone application. Then I'm going to show you how to use it as a plugin in Lightroom, because if you want to use it as a Lightroom plugin, you have to do it in a very specific way. Now, you can see right in the middle, it says add raw images to Lightbox, and it's encouraging me to click this little plus sign. When I do, a Finder window will open. I'm just going to select all of the images that are in this folder and add them to Lightbox. Lightbox is kind of the digital asset manager inside of PureRAW 5. From here, you could say click on an image and get some information about it by clicking on the eye icon. And you can see we have some exposure information and camera and lens information. I want to point out, you'll also notice here is DXO Optics module. In order to do the editing on the images, PureRAW will have to download an optics module for the specific lens used. Now, it only needs to do this one time, the first time. So when you load in a RAW file that is using a lens that it hasn't seen before, you'll need an active internet connection so it could download the optics module for that lens. Then from that point forward, it's stored on your computer and it won't need to download it again. Also, you'll notice to the right, there's a sort icon. By default, I think when you first start using this, it's going to sort them by date with the newest image at the top and the oldest image here at the bottom. I could change that if I want to sort it, say click on date again. I have the oldest image at the top, newest image at the bottom. If I want to sort it by ISO, I could do that. Here is higher ISO images at the top, lower ISO images at the bottom, and so on. I'm going to stay with date. You also get sorted by name. You also have filter options. Let's say that inside of Lightbox, I only want to look at images that were shot with an ISO of 800. I could go to the filter option. You can see there's a lot of different filter options, but if I click on ISO 800 and click apply that one filter, I'll only see images that were shot with ISO 800. You may want to do this because you may want to do specific bulk editing to all of the images shot with a specific ISO one way, and then bulk editing to images shot with a different ISO a different way. So you could do that with this filter option. And I mentioned there's a lot of different filters you could go or you could filter by. You want to reset this, you want to see all your images again, click on reset and then click apply zero filters. Now by default, you'll be in grid view. Grid view has this frame around the image with the file name at the bottom. If you want to make this a little more compact, you could click on mosaic view. You can see it gets rid of the frame and the file name. I like grid view though. And what is new in this version compared to previous versions, you have this add images button here. You could click this, you'll get a Finder window. You could add more images to Lightbox. You could add more images to previous versions as well. There just wasn't a button here. You had to go up to File, Add Photos to Lightbox to do it. Now, there are two different ways you could edit images in PureRAW in previous versions as well. This isn't new. You could process with a preview. This is the way I prefer to do it. Or you could just click process. Clicking process won't give you a preview. So you click on this and you'll get this dialog box. It will show you what corrections it's going to use and what output it's going to use. You do have the option of using a specific preset if you want to. You can change settings manually by clicking on, say, corrections and change the correction settings, or clicking on output, change your output settings as well. You could add them to the queue or process them right away. I mentioned that I prefer, though, to process with a preview. I'm going to do that. I'll click on process or preview, and then I see the image right in the middle, and I could get a before after by sliding this slider. I could choose different images from the film strip, and I could see different images. I could get rid of the film strip if I don't want to see it by clicking this icon here. I could get rid of the right panel by clicking this icon as well. I also could change this if I don't like the slider view. I could just go to the single image view and just look at the image. I like the slider though, to see the before after. And you want to zoom in a little bit, you can. There's a little like 100% button right here. Click there and I'll zoom in. It takes a second to catch up or to update. You want to move the image around, just click right on the image and drag it. Or you could go to the navigator window and click this little box and move it around as well. And it will reposition the image on the screen. And you'll notice there's before, there's after. PureRAW 5 does a great job. Now, if you do watch my videos, you know that in the past I've done videos where I've compared all the so-called AI noise reduction applications to one another. And in those videos, PureRAW 5 proved to be the best every single time. And PureRAW 5 is no exception. In my opinion, it's the best noise reduction application available. You can see it does a great job on this image that has a lot of noise. Now, if I want to fit this to screen, I could click this little icon right here. If I want to zoom in further than 100%, I also have a drop-down option as well. Now, as far as the actual adjustments are concerned, let's move this over to the left. That's where the right panel comes in. There are presets. I could use a specific preset that's available. I could create my own preset as well, and it would be available in this drop-down. I also could choose the denoising and demosaicing options. I could use Deep Prime 3, which is a bit older technology, but it may work better on some images in some situations. Newer technology is the Deep Prime XD2S and XD. These are actually two different types of denoising and demosaicing options. They're just kind of grouped together. And it will use XD2S if your RAW file is compatible with it. If your RAW file isn't compatible with XD2S, instead it will use XD, which is a bit of an older technology. Now, the thing, though, was a problem in the past, is XD2S never worked on Fujifilm RAW files. Those are RAW files that used an X-Trans sensor. Well, with PureRAW 5, Fujifilm users now have their own denoising and demosaicing option. You can see it's right here, Deep Prime XD3- or it's X-Trans sensor. You can see it's still in beta. It's great out here because this isn't a Fujifilm RAW file. This is a Nikon RAW file. And I will show you how this works in a moment. But you do have that option now. So if you are a Fujifilm user, hooray, you do have an option to get the best noise reduction possible with your RAW files. Now, whenever you choose the denoising or demosaicing option up here, you'll have some adjustments. You have illuminance and force details sliders. These were in previous versions, but they were hidden. They were up here at the top. You need to click on a little triangle to expose them. Now they're right here, and you could change them from the defaults of 40 and 0. One thing I do want to mention, though, that if you, let's zoom in a bit. Let's move it this way. If you do try to force details, like you're trying to get more detail in the feather pattern, you, in some images, will start to reintroduce noise. So you need to be careful of that. Instead, what you may prefer to do is go to this drop down and change it. By default, it's usually on standard and happened to be on hard. That was what I used last time. Let me move it to where there's feather detail. You'll notice on standard, there's this standard amount of lens sharpness added to the image. If I go to hard, you can see it's a lot sharper, isn't it? And there's standard. And there's hard. Now, all this did is it moved the slider. These are kind of like just presets. They're soft. You can see soft puts the intensity slider at 75. Standard, it puts it at 100. Strong puts it at 150. And hard puts it at 200. If you move the slider manually and it's not on one of those default numbers, it will be on custom, you can see. So you could use the drop downs faster. You could slide it, move the slider, whatever. You'll also notice that you could correct vignetting, chromatic aberration, and lens distortion within PureRAW 5. One thing I want to mention, though, is if you are using PureRAW 5 as a Lightroom plugin, you'll know that there are lens corrections available in Lightroom. If you're doing lens corrections in Lightroom, turn off the lens corrections here. You don't want to put lens corrections on top of lens corrections. Or maybe you prefer to do your lens corrections here and not in Lightroom. In that case, make sure that they're off in Lightroom and on here. In this case, I'll just leave them on for this image that I'm doing. Let's fit it to screen also by clicking this little icon right there. Now, all right, I'm happy with the noise reduction. I want to actually export this. I have options though. I could add it to a queue. This is what I usually do is I go through all the images and add them to the queue as I set up my settings. And then once I have a bunch of images in the queue, I'll just process them all at once. And I kind of walk away from my computer, get coffee or whatever, and let them do its editing or processing. If you're just processing one image, you may prefer to process now. One thing that is missing, or you might think is missing in PureRAW 5, is the actual output options. Or you can save it as a JPEG, a TIFF, a DNG. Where are you going to save it? Are you going to name it? Well, those options are still here. They just have their own panel. To get to them, go over here in this icon right here. You'll have output options. And you can see these are the same options that were in previous versions. DNG, TIFF, JPEG, destination, file renaming. And what do you want to do after export? You have those options there. If you're happy with everything here and you want to go back to the edit panel, click these little stars right here. And they call it the image correction panel. And you're there. Now you'll notice there's something else here, this little brush. This is new in PureRAW 5. This is local adjustments. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't like the way it's implemented. I'm hoping, though, that in future versions of PureRAW 5, they improve local adjustments. And let me just show you. You'll notice I did global adjustments already, and it removed noise. But let's just say that I want to add some more sharpness just to the bird. I don't want to do it globally by changing intensity, because that's doing it maybe, to the background and maybe the bird's body. I don't want to do it there. I just want to do it to the bird's head. Well, I could go to the local adjustments, and the only local adjustments you have is a brush. And it's not a smart brush. It doesn't have any like intelligence to it. Wherever I put the brush stroke, that's where it's going to apply the adjustment. So I can't just select the subject. I can't just say select the sky. I can't just select the foreground or the background. I just can't select the bird's head. I need to just brush. And wherever I brush, that's where the adjustment's going to go. And I could make a mistake. I could, like that. Then I would have to instead then get the minus brush and remove it from those areas. So it's not a smart brush. And hopefully in future releases of PureRAW 5, they make this so it's smarter, so that you can select things using AI. Select just the head of the eagle, or just the background, or just the sky. And wherever you apply it, it's going to then do these adjustments on top of the global adjustments you just did. So maybe I want to change this to hard sharpening. So it's doing hard sharpening on top of the other sharpening that I just did. And maybe we'll add a little more luminance noise reduction as well on top of that. And then when you're done here, just go and click back to the corrections panel, which is right here. Now you have those adjustments on top of it. Now, all right, I'm satisfied. I want to save this. One thing to take note, and I screw this up all the time or it annoys me, is I have every single image in the film strip checked. If at this point I click add to queue or process now, it's going to do all of them. So it's going to add all of them to the queue, or it's going to process all of them. I only want to do this specific image. So make sure that you come in and uncheck all of the images that you don't want checked. So we'll undo all of those. I just want this one. And I mentioned that typically I would add it to the queue, but let's just process it now. I have the output panel option set the way I want it. I'll click output or process now, and it actually brings us back to Lightbox. It has a progress bar at the bottom, and you can see down here it's saying processing, and you can see the progress bar is going, and that one is processed. Do I want to go to the Finder, view the results, or export to? Export to means exporting it to another application. So I could click export to, and I could send it to Lightroom and stuff like that. I don't want to do that. I'll click cancel. So it's there. It's actually saved. If I go to that folder that's on my desktop, you'll notice it's right here. So this is the image that I just did, saved to the same folder, and it's all set. Now, I mentioned a couple things that I was going to show you how to do this as a plugin in Lightroom. So let's open up Lightroom Classic. And it has that option for Fujifilm X-Trans sensors. Let's see how that works. In this specific image, as you can see, is a .raf file. This was taken with the Fujifilm X-T1. This is a really old image. So this was shot also, if I hit the I key on my keyboard with it, ISO is 6400. So there is a considerable amount of noise in this image. Let's take this image from Lightroom into PureRAW 5, use that new technology for X-Trans sensors, and let's see how it works with Lightroom. To do it, to get this image into PureRAW 5, you need to go up to File, and then down to Plugin Extras, and then you'll notice there's a section for PureRAW 5, and there's 3 options. The top option is the way I like to do it. Preview and process with DXO PureRAW 5. That's just how I did that last Nikon file. There's process instantly with DXO PureRAW 5. If I do that, it will bring up that dialog box again, like we saw in PureRAW 5, where I have the specific corrections it's using, the output it's using. I can change them again by clicking on them to change them, and I could process this now. It will not leave Lightroom. It will just do this in the background and then add the image to wherever I wanted it added, which in this case would be the same folder. But in that case, as I mentioned, I don't like doing it that way. I prefer to see what I'm doing, so I like to have the preview. The other option, if I go to File and go to Plugin Extras again, is to process directly using last settings in DXO PureRAW 5. This is the fastest way, and it's not going to allow you to make any changes. It's just going to process it immediately. You may want to do that if you know that you have the settings set up in PureRAW 5 the way you want them. But I like to do that preview and process with DXO PureRAW 5, this one. So I like to see what's happening. So what it will do now, it will open this image up into PureRAW 5. And you can see it's the only image down here in the film strip. You may want to get rid of that so you have a little more room. And you have the before after. So everything's pretty much the same at this point. You have the before after. Let's zoom into 100%. You can see that there is a considerable amount of noise, and it got rid of it. Now, by default, it used the last thing I used, which is the D'(XD2S/XD). But this is an X-Trans sensor camera, so I want to use that option. So I'll click on that. You can see it's updating, saying right here, you have to let it finish its updating. I did notice that it's a little slower than the other two modules or models. This one does take a little longer, but overall it does a great job. You can see that it got rid of the noise wonderfully. We'll use the default luminance and force detail settings. Lens sharpness optimization is set to standard. If I go to say hard, you can see how it makes his face a little sharper. This was a little bit of a soft image. It wasn't focused perfectly. If you ever owned a Fujifilm X-T1, you know the focus on it wasn't the best. But you could see that standard's okay. We'll just leave it at that. And we'll leave the vignetting, chromatic aberration, lens distortion on. I mentioned make sure you don't have those on in Lightroom though, and you'll be okay. And we'll click Process Now. And what will happen is it will process this image, and it will save it into the same folder as the original image, and it will automatically put it in Lightroom Classic. The thing though that you need to be aware of, and it comes up with this, just click OK that you're done, is that now this is it. And I don't like this. It did this in previous versions too. It will create a collection, and it's in a collection set called DXO PureRAW 5. And then it's in here by date. And you can see it's right here. Here's the image right there. I prefer it didn't do that. I'd like to stay in the folder I was working in. In this case, I had a folder called Noise. And then the image is right here. So this is the image. You can see D'(XD3 X-Trans Beta.dng. Let's zoom in to an area like right in here. All right, let me move down a little bit. Let's go up here and go to View and lock the zoom position. So then when I click between the two images, it doesn't move. And you can see there's before and there's after. Let's actually go over to the Develop module. Let's get rid of this left panel. Let's get rid of the right panel. Let's make this one a little smaller. Okay. So there's before and there's after. There's before and there's after. So you see it did a great job, in my opinion. And that's really it. That's PureRAW 5. I will do more videos on it. Mention in the comments what you want me to cover in future videos. And I'll definitely do it. I do want to reiterate that in the description below this video, I'll have a link to their website. Download that fully working free trial. If you do choose to purchase it and you are a new customer, I have a discount code that will save you 15%. I'll have that listed there as well. Thank you, everyone who watches my videos. I really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.